Alright guys, what is up? It is Maxwell, and just want to make this video on CASI. I'll keep it, short and to the point. Try to keep it like 5 to 10 minutes. So we've got earnings coming up on a Friday, pre-market, and then on Monday the 15th, we've got the 13F filings. So, personally, I'm more excited to see the 13F filings. I just kind of want more transparency into, understanding what's been going on over the past few months in terms of kind of who's been selling, because it's pretty clear that somebody's been holding this down. Could be one fund, it could be several funds, whether they're exiting or just selling off, majority stake in their position of CASI. It's going to just provide more transparency around that. Now, we also did see some, large block orders and dark pool orders back in September and October, so I'm curious to see, have there been any new funds that have entered, who's been adding. So overall, I just want to see those 13F filings just to gain more understanding of what's been going on and just kind of understand the price action a little bit more. All right, and then in terms of earnings themselves, I don't expect them, whether or not they beat or underperform, I don't expect much of a move in this price of the stock either way. I expect Evomilia revenue to be in line of that 80% growth projection that the CEO is kind of targeting, around 7.5 to 8 million in sales, kind of what I expect. But again, I don't expect much movement there. What I do hope the CEO kind of talks about, I hope he offers some guidance. We need some more reassurance, from the company. And overall, I'm just looking for professionalism. I'm looking for the earnings call to actually work this time. It didn't work in Q2, which was kind of annoying. And overall, I'm just looking for more professionalism. And I really say that because over the past few months, myself and other CASI investors that I've talked to, we've tried calling investor relations, emailing them, to no avail. I mean, complete radio silence, right? So I'm looking to, kind of gain some comfort, if you will, from the CEO. I would like him to, provide more guidance and expectations in terms of CNCT19, BI1206, when we can expect updates from them. I do know from the CEO of BioInvent that's developing their BI1206 drug. I'd say it's kind of like their second in line behind CNCT19. CNCT19, their T cells, kind of the main reason I'm invested in this company. And currently, I've got 21,261 shares at a 1.33 average. I'm sorry, 1.31 average. So that's kind of where I'm at, right? So I'm down decently. I've been in this since June. Strategically adding. So I'm in with a little over 20,000 shares now. But anyway, so the BI1206. The BioInvent is the company that's leading those clinical trials and developing the drug. They're expecting CASI to submit the IND submission in December. So that's good. How much of a catalyst is that? I don't really, I'm not getting my hopes up over BI1206, over that IND submission. Still in phase 1. They do have their meeting planned with the FDA to move into phase 2. I think right now they're working on dose escalation, things like that, prior to moving into phase 2. And they're presenting, I think, December 15th, BioInvent is about BI1206. So that's something to pay attention to. Again, do I expect it to really move this stock significantly? Not necessarily, but it could definitely help. What I'm really looking forward to is the CNCT19 news expected ideally in January. It was initially planned for Q4 of this year. I don't think we'll really get anything until January or February. In regards to an update from Juventus about the CNCT19. That's something I do think will move the stock and will be a valuable catalyst. But again, I'm expecting Q1 of 2022, and that's also in line with what the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer of CASI, talked about back in October. So so those are kind of the main things I'm looking forward to. Now, in terms of two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about Juventus's Series C financing around the $63 million Series C round that they just closed, and what happened with the H.C. Wainwright $20 million offering thing. So I just want to cover those real quick. So if you notice the Juventus news of them closing their Series C, when that news came out, CASI actually fell. I forget how many percent. Now, in all fairness, CASI has not been trading organically at all, right? Very little organic action. It's typically pinned, barcoding between, let's say 106 and 105, right? With a big seller on the ask and a big buyer at the bid. and it's just been barcoding, right? Even with 1 million shares in volume, which isn't very typical, right? It's not very typical to see this kind of action, but that's just how it goes, right? You can call it manipulation, you can call it whatever you want. I think every stock is, has manipulation. I think that's just something that we deal with daily. But it's tough to watch, right? I mean, this is very not it's not typical. It's not in like unlike the hundreds of stocks that I've done deep research on. It's typically I don't see action like this. So I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Now I will be looking in the I don't want to get too off track, but I will be looking in the report for Q3 to see if the shares outstanding have changed. I don't expect it to have changed because I haven't seen an S1 or an S3, but you never know. I'll definitely be looking at that. So I just want to talk about. Okay, let me get back to the Juventus thing, and then I'll talk about the H.C. Wainwright $20 million thing, or 20 million share. I forget. So with the Juventus Series C, I think the stock slightly fell potentially, right? Potentially. Again, it's not trading organically. I don't even think it really trades off news very well, recently. So with that news, prior to Series C, CASI owned about 16 to 18% of Juventus. So you have to realize they have an equity stake privately in Juventus, right? So if Juventus ever got acquired, if they ever went public, CASI owned 16 to 18%. After that Series C financing, CASI owns 12% of Juventus. Not a huge deal, right? Still over 10% ownership in that company. And you have to realize, so they have the private investment, right? They have an equity stake of 12% currently. And then they also have the co-commercialization agreement. And on top of that, they have rights to the second drug that Juventus manufactures, if you look in the fine print. So I think they have a well-structured co-commercialization agreement with Juventus. So anyway, all right, aside from that, in terms of this whole H.C. Wainwright $20 million offering thing, if you were to have looked at my in my report here, so I had this back in September, right? It was nothing new. It came out a couple weeks ago about H.C. Wainwright. That was just reinstated, right? So if you read this, I haven't changed this since I wrote it down in September. So since 2018, they had that agreement, right? Use the mouse. Since 2018, they had that agreement. I'd wrote down in October. October is when they would have to sell additional shares or whatever. So it basically expired in October. They reinstated it. There's nothing new. Nothing changed. This has been in place since 2018. Nothing changed. All right. Yeah. So again, this is the number I'm hoping stays the same. I don't expect that to change this quarter. That's the other thing I'll be looking for is the cash on hand. How healthy does the business look? What's the burn rate? How likely, just to kind of give me an estimate of when and another, when would they be in need of cash? When would they need to do an offering? As of right now, I think they have plenty of cash into 2022 and 2023. I think into 2023, so I'm not expecting an offering anytime soon. I don't think it would be a great idea unless they have an asset that they're looking to acquire. I don't see the need to raise more cash and dilute the share price even more. All right. So aside from that, again, I just want to go over this. If you haven't seen my other videos, I'd recommend watching them just because I go a little more in depth and I'm trying to keep this like under 10 minutes. So I put together every filing of the CEO's ownership since 2012 when he took his initial stake. If you notice, so it's either acquire or dispose, right? There are only 2 disposals since 2012. Both of them were gifts and they were tiny amounts relative to how many shares he owns. So it's safe to say the CEO is in deep, right? He's completely loaded the boat. I don't care what people say, he's in super deep. And I don't want to go off of a buy or sell on a company solely based off insider ownership and insider buying, but it's definitely good to see, right? Especially on a relatively sketchy Chinese stock. They are U.S. based, but a Chinese oncology company, right? Clinical stage Chinese oncology company. That's not how I define it, but that's just how it appears, right, to the public. So I take this into consideration, definitely. Another thing you have to realize is, so Wei Wu He, the CEO, he has his own fund called Emerging Technology Partners that he founded in 2002. They've invested in over 70 different biotech companies. A lot of them have been acquired or taken public. So he took a private stake in Juventus through his fund, in addition to CASI taking a private stake in Juventus as well. So, I think he's like doubling down essentially on this CNCT19. And the other thing you need to realize, I know most of you guys do, most of you guys are on StockTwits, and you already know this when I'm talking to everybody else, but so the CNCT19, the main reason that's really the sole reason I'm invested in CASI is that one, it would be the first domestically manufactured in China, first domestically manufactured CAR T therapy in China. It would also compete with Yescarta and Chimera. I don't think Chimera is available in China, but Yescarta is. And Yescarta's average price about $300,000 per treatment. CASI's targeting an $80,000 treatment cost, and I've talked about this before, but BTIG came out with a report back in May saying that if CASI can achieve the $80,000 treatment cost, right, and approval of CNCT19, then their valuation would go from $4, their price target would go from $4 to $21. I'm not going to put a price target on CASI. I have no idea. All I can tell you is that I'm definitely not selling at these levels. Definitely not selling at these levels. I would have sold a long time ago. I would have sold at 184, when we peaked up there. Didn't even think about it, right? So, and even if I'm selling some at 3, if I'm selling some at 4, I'm not going to sell out of it, right? Because just like the CEO, I have a very long-term, view of this company. I think he's very long-term. I don't think he gives a shit about the short-term, action and what's going on with the company right now. That's why there's been radio silence. I just don't think he gives a shit because I think he's so confident in the products. I could be totally wrong, but I think the company's in a better position right now than they've ever been. I think that their assets look very promising. They've got a lot of cash on hand for the most part. They've got a great management team. They have a product that's already commercially available, Evomulia, that's generating revenue, and that's close to bringing them enough revenue in to cover all their sales and marketing expenses, according to the CEO. So I think they're in a great position right now. And yeah, guys, there's a lot going in, through my head when it comes to CASI, and I'm not gonna drag this video on. But if you watched it, awesome. I hope everything goes well on Friday and on Monday, and I'll make another video in a few weeks. And yeah, guys, we'll see what happens. Stick in there. All right, bye, guys.